Here's a thought that will mess with your head. The men women treat the worst are usually the men they want the most. The guys who get the silent treatment, the emotional outbursts, the constant testing, the impossible standards, those aren't the men women are indifferent to. Those are the men they're falling for. This isn't some feel-good relationship advice. This is cold, hard psychology that explains why so many women end up alone, wondering where all the good guys disappeared to. The brutal reality: women systematically sabotage their chances with high-value men through a pattern of behavior so predictable, so self-defeating, that it's almost like they're following a script designed to guarantee failure. And the most twisted part? They do this precisely because they care. The more she likes a man, the worse she treats him. The more potential she sees, the more actively she destroys it. The deeper her feelings go, the more sophisticated the punishment. Today, we're breaking down this psychological pattern that ruins more relationships than infidelity, dishonesty, and incompatibility combined. If you understand this dynamic, you can recognize it in yourself before it destroys something real. But if you keep operating unconsciously, you'll keep pushing away the exact men you're desperately trying to keep. Let's start with a simple scenario. You have two guys in your life. Guy A is someone you're mildly interested in. Nice enough, decent company, but you could take him or leave him. Guy B is the one who gets to you. He's attractive, smart, successful, the type of man you could see a real future with. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Which one of them gets a pass if he doesn't text back for an hour? Which one gets the benefit of the doubt when plans change? Which one are you more likely to stay calm with if something doesn't go your way? If you're being honest, it's always Guy A. The man you care less about gets treated better than the man you're desperately interested in. And this isn't an accident. It's a psychological trap that millions fall into every single day. Here's why this happens. As long as you're not emotionally invested, everything is easy. His behavior doesn't trigger your insecurities because you're not afraid of losing him. His choices don't threaten your future because you haven't built one around him in your mind. His attention doesn't define your mood. But the moment you place your bet, everything goes to hell. Now, his response time matters because it says something about his interest. His decisions affect you because they impact your imagined future. His attention becomes a drug because you've made it essential to your sense of self. Every minute of silence in the chat now feels like rejection, and any uncertainty feels like a direct threat. The lightness vanishes, replaced by a heavy, exhausting anxiety built on fear. This emotional investment transforms you from a pleasant woman to be around into someone who is constantly monitoring, testing, and evaluating his every move. You're no longer looking for confirmation of his good qualities, but for proof that he will betray or disappoint you. And nobody, especially a high-value man with options, wants to live under that kind of microscope. For him, this isn't care, it's suffocating control that sucks all the air out of the relationship. The man who attracted you was likely drawn to your light energy, your positivity, your ability to enjoy his company without making everything complicated. But as soon as your feelings deepen, that version of you evaporates. You become demanding where you were once flexible, critical where you were once appreciative, anxious where you were once confident. This is the investment paradox that kills relationships on the launchpad. The more you want something to work, the higher the probability you'll behave in ways that make it fail. Women don't just punish, they run stress tests, and these aren't fair evaluations of character. They are emotional minefields, created by anxiety, not a desire to build a healthy relationship. The tests start small. You send a text and time how quickly he replies. You suggest plans and see how enthusiastic he is. You mention other men and watch for signs of jealousy. Every interaction becomes a chance to gather evidence about his feelings. But here's what you don't realize. Every test you create is a small punishment for his success in attracting you. You're essentially saying, because I like you, I'm going to make your life with me harder than it was before. Think about it from his perspective. When you barely knew each other, interacting was light and fun. But now that you have feelings, there are suddenly rules, expectations, and penalties he never signed up for. The game changed without his consent, and the new rules seem designed for him to fail. The most destructive tests are the no-win scenarios. You ask if he thinks your friend is attractive. If he says yes, you're upset. If he says no, you decide he's lying. You've created a trap where any answer confirms your negative expectations. High-value men recognize this testing instantly. Their reaction is almost always the same. They withdraw their investment and start looking for someone who doesn't turn every date into an exam. The irony is devastating. The tests you create to secure his commitment are the very things that drive him away. You're trying to prove he's worthy of your feelings by behaving in ways that prove you aren't worthy of his time. The next sabotage tool: emotional roller coasters. When you're with a guy you don't care about, your emotions are stable. But when you're with someone you value, every little thing becomes emotionally charged. This intensity can become addictive. The highs feel higher because the stakes are high. The fights feel more passionate because the connection feels real. But for the man, this roller coaster is just exhausting. What you call passion, he experiences as chaos and instability. What feels like a deep connection to you feels like emotional manipulation to him. It usually looks like this. Things are going well. You start to feel secure. Then you unconsciously create conflict to test the strength of the bond. You pick a fight over nothing. You withdraw affection until he starts chasing you. This constant explosion-reconciliation cycle drains all his energy. He starts to understand that peace in the relationship doesn't depend on harmony, but on how successfully he guessed your mood. He stops trusting the good periods, knowing that a new, artificially created storm will inevitably follow. Every time he passes your test and diffuses the conflict, you don't stay calm for long. You just prepare a new, more complicated test. A man is looking for a partner and a harbor, not the constant battlefield you're building. These manufactured crises prove to you that he's willing to fight for the relationship, but they also prove to him that a relationship with you is eternal drama. They show him that peace and stability are not values you offer. Men who have options will not tolerate this for long. They will choose the woman who enhances their life, not the one who complicates it. Women also punish men by holding them to impossible standards based on fantasy, not reality. The more you fall for him, the clearer your vision of the perfect relationship becomes, and then you start getting angry when reality doesn't match the picture in your head. You compare him to your exes. You compare your relationship to what you see on social media. You compare him to movie characters. But the most devastating comparison is between the real him and his potential. You start punishing him for not being the man you imagined. You get angry that he isn't romantic enough because you imagine he could be more thoughtful. You morph from a partner into a project manager. You see him as a work in progress, not a whole person. From his perspective, it feels like, no matter what I do, it will never be enough. A man who is constantly being graded against an invisible scorecard will eventually just stop trying. This improvement process is actually the slow destruction of his attraction to you. He fell for you because you accepted him, and now he sees only judgment in your eyes. He doesn't want to be your project. He wants to be your man. And when he leaves, you're left wondering why he couldn't measure up, not realizing that you were the one who suffocated him with your expectations. If you recognize these patterns in yourself, if this is making you uncomfortable with how accurate it is, do one thing right now. Hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. We work hard and dig deep into the shadows of the unconscious to find these patterns that are ruining your happiness. The most insidious method of punishment is what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. You give him incredible highs when he behaves correctly, and ice-cold hell when he messes up. This creates a narcotic-like addiction, where he becomes psychologically dependent on your approval. But here's the trap. The behaviors you reward and punish often have nothing to do with his character. They are based on your fleeting mood and your unconscious need for control. When he texts back quickly, you're sweet and affectionate. When he's busy, you become cold and distant. This punishment schedule trains him. He learns to modify his behavior based on your reactions, not his own values. He learns that your happiness is more important than his authenticity. He gets caught in a behavioral loop, desperately chasing the dose of your warmth, which you provide less and less often. Every time he wins your approval, the addiction only deepens, and his self-esteem plummets. A dull resentment begins to build inside him because he knows he's playing a game where you constantly change the rules. He no longer acts from a desire to make you happy, but from a fear of making you unhappy. This constant anxiety is the price he pays for your love, and it burns him out from the inside. The psychological effect on a man is profound. He starts walking on eggshells. He suppresses parts of his personality that might trigger you. He slowly transforms from a confident, independent man into an anxious approval seeker. But this transformation kills the very attraction. You liked the confident man who didn't need your approval. The man who lives for your validation is unattractive. You have, in effect, trained him out of the very qualities you fell in love with. Another relationship killer is emotional double standards. The same behavior. If the guy you don't care about talks to other women, you don't mind. But if the guy you're serious about gets a text from a female friend, it suddenly becomes a problem. The behavior is identical, but your emotional reaction determines what is right or wrong. You are, in essence, punishing him for becoming important to you by applying rules to him that you apply to no one else. This teaches a man that the rules change based on your mood, not on mutual agreements. He starts to realize that your love isn't acceptance, but a set of constantly tightening conditions. This inconsistency creates cognitive dissonance for him. Why is it that the better I treat her and the closer we get, the worse she treats me? He understands that the more you love him, the more penalties he receives for normal human behavior. This double standard says nothing about his character, but it says everything about your own insecurity and fear of loss. You demand a level of perfection and devotion from him that you don't adhere to yourself, turning the relationship into a hypocritical tribunal. This strategy is a direct shot to your own foot. This destructive pattern isn't random. It stems from biological firmware that evolved over millions of years to help women secure high-value men in an environment where survival depended on it. In the prehistoric world, where every day was a struggle, losing a high-value partner and protector was tantamount to a death sentence for a woman and her offspring. The tests, punishments, and pressure are unconscious attempts to guarantee his commitment and resources. This instinct for control wasn't a whim. It was an evolutionary advantage that weeded out those who were too passive. The more valuable the man, the louder this ancient program screams, "Hold him, control him." But this firmware is obsolete. The problem is that this ancient software is still running at full power on modern hardware in an environment of abundance and choice. Your brain doesn't know the difference between losing a boyfriend in the 21st century and losing your only protector from a saber-toothed tiger. What worked in a tribe now repels men in a modern dating market where they have unlimited options and no social pressure to tolerate difficult behavior. This primal panic is what fuels the testing, the drama, and the need for control. And so this mechanism, created for survival, now becomes the primary tool for sabotaging your own happiness. Recognizing this pattern is the first step, but to change it, you need concrete strategies. Start by applying the consistency test to all your reactions. Before you explode, ask yourself, would I react this way if the guy I don't care about did the same thing? If the answer is no, your reaction is based on fear, not facts. This single question is your first line of defense against your own internal programming. This will help you separate your turbulent feelings from objective standards. Just because you're anxious doesn't automatically make his behavior wrong. Your boundaries should be based on mutual respect and clear agreements, not on how intensely you're in love. It is critical to maintain your own life and interests. The more you make him the center of your universe, the more you will suffocate him with your expectations and dependency. A man is attracted to a woman who has a life, not one who needs him to be her life. This emotional self-sufficiency is the ultimate source of genuine, high-value attraction. Instead, consciously practice gratitude over constant evaluation. Instead of always looking for where he fell short, focus on what he's doing right. This shifts the focus from his flaws to his strengths, changing the entire emotional atmosphere of the relationship. Gratitude is an antidote to the poison of entitlement. And always remember that attraction is built on positivity, not fear. You might get temporary compliance with punishment and pressure, but you will never get genuine desire. Your goal is to make him feel good about being with you, not to make him afraid of losing you. True power isn't in controlling him, it's in inspiring him to choose you, over and over again. Ultimately, this is a choice between two paths to security. You can try to create security through control, pressure, and punishment. This path is based on fear, obligation, and guilt. It is the path of insecurity, and it will always lead to resentment from him and from yourself. Or you can create it through appreciation, support, and positivity. This path is based on attraction, respect, and voluntary choice. This is the path of confidence, and it is the only one that leads to a sustainable, passionate connection. Men with options will always choose the woman who offers peace over drama, support over tests, enhancement over complication. The woman who learns to maintain her attractive qualities even as she falls in love will find that men become more committed to her, not less. The pattern is predictable, the choice is clear, and the outcome is entirely in your hands. You can continue to unconsciously sabotage your happiness, or you can consciously build it through appreciation. The men you want are waiting for a woman who knows the difference. The question is, are you willing to become that woman? You've watched this far, which means you're ready for more than superficial advice. We at Psycheria don't hand out cozy recommendations. We dissect the unconscious patterns that are ruining your life. Click subscribe if you have the courage to face the truth.